Imagine a complete foreign policy about-face from the White House.
A really dramatic shift.
Exactly. A sudden change in tone, in strategy, all unfolding in just one announcement. That's what we're diving into today.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission, as we kind of sift through this BBC News live reporting you've shared, is to pull out the core announcement.
What's into the heart of it?
Yes. What they really mean, and the immediate reactions from, well, all sides of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This follows U.S. President Donald Trump's recent declarations during his meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
And the big question hovering over it all.
Is this a real turning point? Or, just another phase in a long conflict? We're going to try and explore that.
Yeah, and what's particularly compelling here, I think, is how you see all these different layers converging.
Oh, that's so.
Well, you've got the high-level diplomacy, the economic moves, and then the harsh realities on the actual front lines. It's all packed into these statements.
So we're looking beyond just the headlines.
Definitely. Trying to understand the currents underneath, the potential long-term effects.
Okay, so let's get right into those headlines then. The big announcements from that White House meeting.
The mega statements, as they were called.
Right. President Trump, sitting there with Mark Rutte, laid out two major things. First, this pledge of very severe secondary tariffs, 100% against Russia.
Which we need to unpack.
We will. And second, a confirmation that, yes, top-of-the-line weapons would be sent to Ukraine.
A significant commitment.
And he really seemed to emphasize his personal frustration, didn't he?
Yeah, the language was strong. Very, very unhappy with Russia. Disappointed in President Putin.
It sounds like he feels his patience has just, run out.
Especially after that recent phone call.
Right, which was then immediately followed by Russia's heaviest bombing of Kyiv since the war started. He even mentioned feeling like he'd had, 4 deals with Putin?
Deals that never materialized, in his view.
Yeah.
And it's such a pivot, isn't it? If you think about it.
A huge one.
For a leader who, at times, talked about a quick peace and sometimes seemed to point more at Ukraine as the obstacle.
Than Russia, yeah.
This really signals a major strategic shift. It's being called a dramatic foreign policy about-face. Everywhere.
It definitely raises questions about what exactly triggered such a big change.
Indeed.
Okay, let's talk about those tariffs then. Because secondary tariffs, that's not a term everyone uses every day.
No, it's specific.
So this isn't just a direct tax on Russian stuff coming into the U.S.
Right. It's indirect. It targets other countries.
Exactly. It means any country that keeps trading with Russia, well, they'll face a massive 100% tax if they then try to sell their own products to the U.S.
So give us an example.
Okay, say India continues buying Russian oil.
Yeah.
Then U.S. companies buying, textiles or something from India, they'd suddenly get hit with a 100% import tax when those Indian goods arrive here.
Mm-hmm. The strategic goal is pretty clear that.
Make it too expensive.
Yeah. Make it economically painful, basically unviable for other nations to keep up those trade links with Moscow.
Sort of financially hobble Russia's economy.
That's the idea. Choke off the money funding the war effort, theoretically.
But, and this is a big but.
How impactful will it actually be?
Right. Especially against an economy that's, let's face it, already shown it can be pretty resilient.
That's the crucial point, isn't it?
I mean, look at the numbers. Since the full invasion, direct U.S.-Russia trade, it's cratered.
Dropped off a cliff.
Yeah, from over $36 billion a year down to less than 10% of that.
But
the U.S. still buys important things from Russia. Fertilizers, certain chemicals, even nuclear material.
And despite all the existing sanctions,
Russia's still pulling in huge money from fossil fuels. Over $300 billion a year.
And a significant chunk of that.
A third of it comes from America's own NATO allies.
Which leads right back to the core challenge. Enforcement.
Can they actually make this stick?
History shows that years of sanctions often just breed, clever ways to get around them. Evasion tactics.
And wasn't there a weird reaction on the Moscow Stock Exchange?
Yeah, quite interesting. It actually jumped sharply right after Trump's announcement.
Which seems backwards.
It does. But it offers a clue. Maybe the market had already priced in something harsh, or maybe even these severe threats are seen as less damaging than, say, the 500% tariffs that were rumored earlier.
So maybe not as hobbling as intended, or at least perceived that way by investors.
It highlights just how complex it is to really hurt an economy that's already been adapting for years.
And one more detail on the tariffs, the political side. The president made a point of saying these can be imposed without needing a green light from Congress.
No House or Senate approval needed, he claims.
Right. Okay, so shifting from the economic pressure, let's talk military aid.
The other big piece.
This promise of top-of-the-line weapons for Ukraine. He was asked, does this mean Patriots, things like that.
And his answer.
Everything. It's everything.
Yeah.
Pretty emphatic.
And Rutte backed that up.
Yeah. The NATO chief confirmed it includes missiles, ammunition, and, quote, really massive numbers of military equipment for air defense.
But what's really significant here, I think, and a definite strategic shift,
Go on.
is that the reports aren't just talking about defensive stuff like Patriot batteries.
Ah, so offensive capabilities, too.
That's what it looks like. Offensive weapons, including missiles and munitions that could potentially strike deep inside Russia.
Wow. That's a change from just helping Ukraine defend its own territory.
It moves towards enabling more, let's say, robust counteroffensives.
And then there's the money side. This part really stood out to me, especially for the European allies.
Who pays the bill?
Well, European governments are footing 100% of it. Billions of dollars for this military gear.
And the U.S. role.
The U.S. sends replacement systems, like Patriots, to those European countries that give their own stock to Ukraine.
Kind of backfill.
Yeah. And NATO Chief Rutte called this totally logical and a tremendous success for NATO, said the Europeans are, quote, stepping up.
Interesting framing.
Trump also acknowledged the Ukrainians' courage, saying they continue to fight with tremendous courage, but noted they are losing equipment.
And Rutte added that Russia's bombing of cities isn't really about military goals.
More about creating panic, he said.
Which brings us neatly to another really crucial part of all this.
The deadline.
Exactly. The 50-day ultimatum for a ceasefire deal.
Analysts were quick to jump on that, weren't they? Saying 50 days is a long time on the front line.
It is, but the strategic play here goes way beyond just a ticking clock, I think.
How so?
It forces everyone's hand, to some extent. Creates this window for really intense negotiation, but also for potential miscalculation.
So the real impact might be less about actually reaching peace in 50 days.
And more about how this ultimatum itself reshapes the battlefield before the deadline even hits.
Okay, let's look at Ukraine's perspective. President Zelensky, he recently had productive talks, as he called them, with the U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg.
Focused on air defense, joint production, that sort of thing.
Right. So Ukraine's definitely hoping for more weapons, no doubt.
But they might also be a bit wary.
Possibly, especially given the U.S. president's comment that they shouldn't feel emboldened. That's an interesting choice of words.
A bit ambiguous.
Meanwhile, the reality on the ground is just grim. The BBC reported air raid sirens in Kyiv right after Zelensky's meeting, triggered by a Russian jet.
And the drone attacks continue.
Relentlessly. Ukrainian air defenses took down 108 out of 136 Russian drones overnight, but still, at least 6 civilians killed in 24 hours.
And Zelensky's move to extend martial law.
And conscription, yeah, until November 5th.
Okay, so what about Russia's reaction to all this?
Well, the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, said it's very important that talks continue, kind of standard diplomatic language.
But others were more dismissive.
Yeah. Konstantin Kosachev, a deputy speaker in their upper house, basically called it much ado about nothing, said 50 days is long and it doesn't affect our moods in the slightest.
Which echoes past experiences.
Exactly. Remember that ultimatum from European leaders back in May?
Went nowhere. Putin offered direct talks and then just didn't show up.
So skepticism is probably warranted.
But what's interesting about this 50-day window, from Moscow's view, is that it might actually give the Kremlin, quote, plenty of room for maneuver.
To do what? Stall? Come up with a counteroffer?
Potentially, yeah. Something to maybe head off the threatened sanctions. But there's a darker side, too.
Which is?
Paradoxically, it also gives Russia time to potentially launch, maybe up to another 25,000 drones and missiles against Ukraine in nightly attacks.
Intensifying the pressure during the countdown itself.
Precisely.
It's such a complex dynamic. President Trump himself said he speaks to him a lot, meaning Putin. Described the talks as very pleasant.
But then immediately undercut that.
Right, adding that the talk doesn't mean anything once the missiles start hitting cities. Pretty blunt.
Did he say how far he'd go if Putin escalates? No, he shut that down fast. Just snapped, "Don't ask me a question like that." Said his main goal is just to get the war settled. He did also praise NATO, though. Mentioned those recent agreements where countries boosted their defense spending pledges, aiming for 5% of GDP by 2035, up from 2%.
A significant increase.
And he had a final message for Russia, urging them to focus on their economy. Said it has tremendous potential, and should use its resources for trade, not war.
An economic appeal alongside the threats.
So, okay, let's try and wrap this up. We've walked through a pretty dramatic policy shift, some serious financial threats, a new wave of military aid for Ukraine.
All framed by this 50-day deadline.
Yeah.
So what you should take away from this, I think, is a clearer picture of that really delicate balancing act.
Between diplomacy, economic pressure, and military force.
Exactly. How they all interplay in this current phase of the conflict. It's just a vivid reminder, really, that these global events are never simple.
Always layers, always unexpected turns. Right. Every announcement has multiple potential meanings, multiple possible consequences.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty compelling final thought to chew on.
What does this 50-day countdown truly mean?
Is it a genuine turning point, a real chance for peace? Or is it maybe just another strategic move in a conflict that's dragging on?
Revealing more about the shifting sands of alliances and economic pressure points than any kind of definitive end.
Something to think about.